We do have music tonight.
All right.
Outlaws to advocates, we speak the truth. Got a mic
Hopefully
in
it
our
plays
hands,
through.
yeah, we're breaking loose. From behind the bars to breaking glass roofs, we're telling our stories and dropping mad truth. Yo, it's George, Jesse, and Jeremy on the mic. 3 outlaws on a mission, man, it feels so right. We were doing hard time, now we're dropping rhymes. Turn our hustle into hope, redefining our prime. From the prison yard to podcast fame, taking back our power, no more shame. We used to wear numbers, now we wear names. Laughing at our haters, cause we changed the game. We got time waiting in the house served.
There we go, man. We finally got the music thing figured out. That's been a challenge. I reset the board. I could not figure that back out. Super excited tonight. We had a really great day. We got to go to Cimarron, one of the high custody yards down in Tucson. We spent our morning like that, and then we get to wrap up our day with Angelo Lopez from Axiom Care.
Yeah, Community of Recovery.
Community of Recovery. I knew it was a long title. I was going to drop it, but we're there. I get to see you a lot in the work settings, right, professionally.
Sure.
And when you walked in the door, I was super excited. I was expecting somebody else. I confused the name. So it's really good to see you here, man. Thanks for being here. Let me introduce myself. My name is George Nolan. I'm an advocate. I'm a harm reduction advocate. I just want everybody to be as safe as possible. I believe everybody can change, and that's why I do what I do.
Absolutely, George. My name is Jesse Messer. I'm a peer and recovery support specialist. I teach peer support certification at New Freedom. I'm also a reentry and recovery advocate, harm reduction advocate, and advocate for reentry.
And all around great guy.
Yeah.
All right.
My name is Jeremy Shaw. I am also a recovery advocate, workforce development, community reentry specialist. I work for Sanctuary Recovery Centers as their Director of Justice Integration. I also get the privilege to know Angelo tonight, so I'm really grateful to be here and listen to his truth.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I'm Angelo Lopez. I currently work for Axiom Community of Recovery. In the past, I've worked for the for-profit Axiom Care on different levels, support staff, substance use counselor. I'm currently working as an outreach specialist, and we're basically building the nonprofit up.
That's awesome, man. It's exciting. I get to see you a lot. I get to see how passionate you are. You lean into your work. I know all of us do. We work a little bit too hard sometimes. Really cool news is Erin Yeager popped in. We were just talking about her before we kicked it off.
Yes, we were.
She's here. She's one of our faithful 4 listeners, so that's awesome. The other 3 are over here sitting on the couch off camera. So we're gonna have a low viewership tonight for sure. But really, really great to have you here, man. Why do you do what you do? What's your story?
Well, as a youth, I was involved in street gangs, Adobe Mountain, all that good stuff. I ended up.
What's Adobe Mountain for the people that don't
Adobe
know?
Mountain is the Juvenile Department of Corrections, and some of the alumni of Adobe Mountain like to call it summer camp for knuckleheads. But, I mean, it was a.
Was it a summer camp?
Well, in some ways, it was a rite of passage in certain neighborhoods.
Okay.
Your older homeboys came out, and a lot of times they came out because there was weights in there, and they, looking swole, and you're like, I'm gonna go to Adobe. Oddly, and as stupid as that sounds, that was our mindset. I ended up catching a murder charge. It happened when I was 17 years old. I was charged when I was 18 years old. Spent 23 consecutive years. As soon as I got out, I was going to school. Well, all I could get was I was washing dishes. And cool story. How I met Jeremy was Calicia Hand. She was working. She's the project manager of correspondence. So she does
For where?
For Rio Salado.
Nice.
For the
And so-
incarcerated distance learning program.
Yo, I absolutely know who she is. I just wanted to,
Yeah,
for the
make sure
listeners.
we
Yeah,
give her-
she does a lot of amazing work.
She connected us, and she basically calls me and like checking on me. I heard you were a part of incarcerated learning. I just want to see how you're doing. I see you enrolled. And so like, and she's all, I have someone that I would like you to talk to. Do you mind if I give him your number? And I said, sure. No, it was funny because Jeremy calls and he's like, what do you need? I was like, dude. It was this crazy white boy hat. No, but it was beautiful because like he showed me his heart right off the rip. Like, what do you need? You need hygiene, bro? You need clothes? I got you, man. I go, I live way out here, bro. So I don't care.
No.
But I didn't need anything. But the offer was there.
Thankfully, right?
Yeah. I'm grateful for that family support. Fast forward some time, and I reach out to him, and I'm at
So
my
this is after a 23-year prison sentence.
yes.
Okay.
So I'm washing dishes. I'm doing prep cook work, and just I hate it. I'm going to Star, Lifewell, all these different places trying to get. I tried CBI, nothing, and I'm discouraged. And I reach out.
You were looking for work. That's what you
Yeah.
mean? Okay.
In behavioral health, I wanted to help people.
Right.
And I reach out to Jeremy, and I'm just like, I'm distraught. I'm just like, I'm just about to throw in the towel. I don't know what to do. So he sends me a text with Les Brown,
Yeah.
Les Brown for a little encouragement. It's like, okay, check it out. I know this lady. Usually, good things start with, "Hey, I know a guy.
Yeah. I know someone.
I know someone." And it happened.
Bad things start with that too.
Yeah, they do. And he knew Renee Scazzari, who was at the time the executive director for the RCBM program for Axiom Care. And he talked to her, and I ended up I already had something on Indeed with him, and I get pulled in for the interview, and I get my shot, basically. And kept going to school, kept doing my thing, and just worked
So
hard.
your first job in behavioral health was with Axiom?
Yeah, it
And
was
you're still there currently?
yeah.
How
Just
long have
switched
you
to
been
the
there?
nonprofit, but yeah.
How many
So,
times have you been promoted since you've been there?
3 times
In how long?
under 2 years.
Off of a 23-year murder sentence?
Yeah,
Pretty amazing, right?
yeah. I don't stop and think too much. Maybe I should every once in a while.
You got to celebrate those wins, man.
For sure.
They're huge wins, especially you do that amount of time. The transition back out here is super easy, right? Super easy.
Oh, of course.
Let me ask you this, brother. How hard was it for you to change that mindset, having been incarcerated for 23 years, being stuck in that prison mentality, to coming out to the real world and having to adjust to normal people?
So, I guess I would say my journey to recovery, and it wasn't atypical. My story starts with my informal education, trying to be a better criminal. I was studying psychology. I was studying NLP.
The Prince.
Yeah, all the good stuff, right? And
It is good stuff, actually.
it is, and it brought me to some of the philosophy stuff. I start asking the questions, like, why are we here? And at first, I came to a nihilist conclusion that it's all a joke. So carry on, you're
Right.
good. Long story short, I end up in Cimarron, and I catch a case, and I'm in Pima County Jail, and I read a book about Kundalini Yoga that was written by a psychologist, so I know what it is intellectually. So I'm in VCU at Browning, and someone's in there, and I knew what it was intellectually, so they shoot me a little a little note, right? And he goes, "Hey, if you're cool with it, I got this correspondence course that I want you to take." And I said, "Sure." And it was full of Eastern philosophy, meditation, and gives you a mantra. And I read it, and it just spoke to me, and I just kept going. And so it wasn't
So
wasn't
for people that don't understand, you're now back from county jail on a case.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the violent criminals unit at the highest custody level
Mm-hmm.
in the state of Arizona.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And how much time did you have left in front of you?
Let's see. At that time, I had, I would say 6 or 7.
6 and 7 years remaining.
Yeah.
And this was the start of your transformation, of your changing of your mindset?
Yes. And it wasn't this big aha moment. It's cumulative. And because I kept practicing the meditation, I kept reading the philosophies, right? And till one day it just came full circle, and I really did not want to do anything anymore. And there was like a big surrender in a way.
Yeah.
If you could define that word surrender, what would that look like? What does that look like for you?
Surrender it's almost paradoxical. Well, not almost, it is paradoxical, because you gain so much. You gain power by surrender.
What are you giving up?
I'm giving up, honestly, all the old dumb baggage. So it's a good trade-in. I aligned my life and my values with something greater than myself, and that was my surrender.
Nice.
And what happened was my heart opened, and grace has been accompanying me this whole time. I meet people through grace. My relationship with Jeremy is through grace. Right? Meeting Cordero through grace, meeting John Bastian through grace, meeting Aaron Yeager through grace, right? And it's
That last one's a tough one to believe.
Yes. Easy there.
she's a handful sometimes, but she's great.
We love Erin.
We love her, yeah. She's our gang leader, actually.
Yeah, and I was gonna say
She's got 14 SDG points.
I'm sure
and
she
never been to
does.
prison.
Yeah.
and her leadership style is subtle, and that's what I love. Like, this lady was working as the clinical director of 2 places, and she takes me to lunch and talks to me about clinical stuff,
That's awesome.
right? She doesn't have to do that. She does
Right.
not have to do that.
And she's been sober for quite an amount of time. I don't know the year, so I don't want to say it, but for quite some time. The first time I ever met her, she's like, I'll be right there. I just got to finish my meeting. And she's in her car doing a virtual 12-step meeting. And I believe she told me she does it like 5 days a week still.
Well, I believe it. She's
Yeah.
superhuman.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, and she's not a slacker.
No.
I mean, some people like would hate on her because she's in teams like, hey, I need you to clean up this on this chart on this. I mean, she was on her stuff, and like I said, she's doing this at 2 facilities at the time,
And attending 5 meetings.
Yeah.
And taking people to lunch.
and like,
I love it.
so I mean,
She's a beast.
she is a beast.
She's coming on here eventually.
Yeah,
We haven't got her to agree to it yet, but
And we have to childproof the place.
yeah, we definitely have a job.
So I
And
got one
get her
more
a
question for
booster
you.
seat?
Real quick, Angela. You said that when you were younger, you were involved in gangs. Did that
Yeah.
include drug use as well?
yes, and honestly, I mean, that's hand in hand.
Absolutely.
It's the social stuff, gangs and drugs, and the funny thing is that we're like, well, since I'm not homeless on the street, I'm not an addict.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
I'm doing better than him.
I'm selling more than I'm using, so I'm not an addict.
My question is, did you stay sober through your entire 23 years incarcerated?
No.
No?
I was a
No.
I was a IV methamphetamine user. I tried heroin in CB4. And thank God I got really sick and sweating, and I remember telling myself, why do these old dudes love this shit so much? This shit sucks.
Yeah.
That's a way better reaction than loving it, right?
No, yeah.
Probably saved your life.
No, yeah, it did, because I would have been one horrible, miserable tecato.
Yeah. So at the turning point of your surrender, is that when you engage with Rio Salado as a base, or is that something that you'd been going through throughout the course of your incarceration?
So I started in Browning. I did English 101, English 102. They came back and said, hey, you guys are not allowed to take these courses anymore. And so I later on did an Ashland course, and then they came back and said, you have the staff assault, so no. So my introduction with Rio was English 101, 102, which are fundamental base courses. You need to know how to write papers in order to go to college.
Absolutely.
Rio Salado means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Jeremy. Like it planted that seed. I mean, I think this is probably cliche by the amount of times it's said, but there's the transformative power of education, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Right? It starts here and then it creeps here, right? It starts in the mind, then it goes to the heart. And my relationships that I've made there have opened so many doors at scholarships.
Yeah. And so as far as scholarships, tell everybody what it is that you were awarded recently,
The All Arizona Academic Team Scholarship.
Awesome.
and how many people in the state get that every year?
I think it's 2 per school. I think it's 2 per school.
2 per school.
I can relate and connect to a lot of what you're saying. You know, when I was incarcerated, I actually got 2 college degrees myself. In my entire life, I had never finished anything. And those college degrees that I received incarcerated was the first time in my life I'd ever done anything and finished it and followed through. And there was so much self-worth that came from that. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying. You know, education's a big thing. I just, for so many years, I would live in this self-stigma that, well, it's not going to matter if I get an education because my felonies are going to keep me from getting a job anyway. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what I learn because nobody's going to hire me because I'm a felon.
Victim mentality.
Yeah, and I would just believe it. And I just believed it. Even though I got the degrees, for years I never did anything with them because I told myself nobody's going to hire me. And I just never tried.
That self-fulfilling prophecy. In the last episode, I want to say one of you guys is saying they love getting the white big envelope, and they were like, words at you.
Yeah.
They're saying it's a win every time.
He's still got
I
that.
got,
He's still lugging that shit around from place to place.
I'm lugging my all my handwritten
Still.
assignment. I got my associate's degree in handwritten, you know.
and they gave you the whole course, and it looked like a phone book, right?
Yeah.
Oh, how many white boxes?
You know,
is
when
that?
I had the privilege of getting out, I went right to Rio because I was scared half to death because of technology. And I walked into the incarcerated distance learning program and I found just these amazing humans. There's only 4 of them and they were like paper shuffling. I mean, and then they brought me down to where the copying machines were. They're the only print-based college left. And dude, there was like 20 like small Volkswagens pumping out papers in this mailroom. Like I was like, this is like Santa's workshop for education.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is going on in here. And I could, and they taught me how to use Google. They taught me how to use Gmail. They taught me how to use the calendar. And well, I can't wait to start school again. Honestly,
And wasn't it like, didn't Calesia kind of like sneak you in a way?
she did. So she wanted me to fill out an application for student service specialist. I waited 8 months before they called me and said, "Hey, do you want this job?" Because that's how long it took for the background check to get done.
Man.
Wow. Good Lord.
Oh, so I'm gonna have 74 felonies.
By that time, they did get a good 3 months out of me before I had started with Northsight. It was really cool to learn the dynamics of an office too, and everybody was so just non-judgmental and warm and supportive and teaching me how to use making spreadsheets, like anything and everything that I needed, right? And she encouraged me to take the computer information systems course so I can become even more familiar.
Which was your first piece of advice to me? Take CSI 105.
Yeah.
So that you know Office Suite, which I did.
Yeah.
Hey, the funny thing is, my stepdad takes me to his niece's house because I was having problems highlighting and dragging myself into the box. I swear to God.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think there's something wrong with this.
These keys are broke.
These keys are broke.
And to
Yeah.
her credit, the
Yeah.
sweet thing didn't laugh, didn't say anything. She goes, "No, it works fine."
Let me show you.
No, it works.
But I mean, that's where we're at when we get out, and it's
Yeah, that technology gap it's pretty brutal. You said something to me. We were at a parole orientation one morning. I think it was a parole orientation. We've been to a lot of places, but I think it was a parole orientation. And you had said being in max custody, right? And you had a conversation with somebody about, you know how we pop doors, we do all that stuff, we get out. You're like, we're popping these doors to get out to hurt people, but nobody's trying to leave.
yeah.
Right? We're not trying to get out to escape.
Yeah,
Just-
so I won't go into too much detail, but strip down to the
Yep.
boxers, pop the tack welding, go in, get out, and clean up and tie back up, and you dress back up, and it's like magic, right? But oddly enough, this older black dude was next to me, and in the cell, and he tapped on the thing. He goes, "Youngster, let me tell you something, man." I said, "What?" He goes, "You will break out of somewhere, get out, and not even think about being free. You go out and hurt someone and you go back. You don't find that odd?" And I was like, I had no answer for the man. Like, obviously that is.
Yeah.
Right? I'm so trapped in my own bullshit that
And that mindset, that's how you can't
Like,
see in front of
if-
your face.
I'm not even contemplating like being free of the place.
Have you experienced that metaphorically out here? And can you give us an example in detail?
So metaphorically, being in my own cage, I think some of the limitations and barriers I even set for myself, like those things, like Jesse was saying, I can't do this. He's got 2 degrees in his pocket, but he's unwilling to. He's boxed in. So where I was boxed in is I started finishing this ASD thing and I'm telling myself it's worthless, which is the biggest cross
Just
ever.
busted your ass for years and years.
This is worthless bull. I have the ability to talk to someone and explain certain things to people that hopefully may resonate with them. How is that worthless? It's a base of knowledge. My brother even was like, "What are you talking about, man?" He goes, "No education's useless." I was like, "Yeah, I get." But I mean, just stupid things like that. Those self-imposed cages that we put on ourselves.
Do it.
Yeah, and I always talk about like reentry, like, and I share it with the guys when I go see them. Is like there's this invisible boot, and it's on my chest, and it's mine. I created it, and it presses on me, and it brings a certain level of anxiety that is emotionally freezing, and I can't breathe in certain situations, and I know that I'm responsible for it. So I have to remove it. And it comes through prayer and meditation and relying on the strength of the program. But it's amazing how it hits me, and it actually does freeze me. And my ability to remove it is fit on my spiritual condition. There we go. That's better put. But yeah, it is. It's my own box. It's my own trap.
A lot of limitations I've always put on myself. And I found that when I was actually able to overcome the fear and actually try, a lot of times those limitations weren't even real.
Yeah.
They were just
None of the time.
None of the time.
We tell ourselves all the shit we can't do. It's
a
fucking
delusion.
crazy.
Part of me wants to go a little bit deeper, like philosophically.
Yeah, please,
So
please
it's
do.
Identification. It boils down to identification, right? In my spiritual path, we're told our where we fail is we identify as this just human body that is born and dies, right? And so my identification as street gang member, this, that, right? Those identifications are my cage, my jail, because those definitions hold me in this lane.
Yeah.
The higher identification is like the analogy of, say, I don't know what you want to call it. You want to call it God, you want to call it the universe, consciousness, whatever it be, right? The whole, the one, the all, right? The analogy of water, right? And you being this little drop that's incarnated in this body, right? You're no different from the large body of the water, that little piece of you that's God, right? And once we identify with that, and instead of this knucklehead, X this, X that, then through that higher identification, we find that connection with God. And then we go back to the surrender, and grace starts working through you.
And for everybody out there, just FYI, my boy can get the meditation in, right? So tell us about your meditation path, and when it started and where you're at today with it.
So it started in prison, and it actually started with a desire to improve cognitive ability.
And you had a really profound spiritual experience as a result of that. Can you share that?
Yeah. So I did a technique. It's called Hamsa. It's basically following the breath in and out. And this is right after I make this surrender. And in some circles, it's kind of taboo to speak of these things, but here we go. So I'm in meditation, and I'm perceiving this, and I have a bout of no thought, and then the first thought that comes up is, hey, I haven't been breathing in a while, which I haven't been, right? And so as soon as that happens, there's what's known as bellows breathing that pranayama does on purpose. My body starts doing it of its own volition. I feel energy shoot up my spine. I feel my chest open, and energy shooting up to the crown of my head. And I can tell you, I've never felt as much joy, bliss, and all these different things, right? And so this path is, it bases off of Vedanta and Kashmiri Shaivism, right? So you would describe it as Hinduism, but the odd thing enough is the way my mind described it, I went to Sunday school as a kid. So that song, I've got the joy, 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 it's playing in my head. This is not, I mean, this is
Right.
like this crazy, weird, I mean,
That's awesome.
beautiful experience. But I mean, like, and the yogis call it the opening of the heart, right? That's when the heart chakra opens. And that's what I experienced. And I like undescribable bliss.
That's amazing.
I love that, bro.
And so I mean, that was a life-changing thing. You stop, you're not motivated or driven by up here no more. It's there. And the yogis, the ancient sages say that there's knowledge there, great knowledge. And
Within?
yeah, within the heart. And what I've noticed, there's practices where you contemplate, right? And like, so what you'll do is you'll try to put yourself in the highest states you possibly can. Maybe you have a question, right? And it's kind of like a data dump. So you're just asked to, without censor, just write. Write the answers. And the mind's going to go off. The mind has the answer. Of course it has the answer. Then you go back in a higher state, the highest state again, and you just let that question resonate and sit. And I know when the answer is coming from the heart because it's concise and it's perfect. And so that's contemplation. At least in my path, that's contemplation. That's how you would contemplate something. If you're meditating on it and if you're praying on something, you ask that question. But you've got to put yourself in that higher state, right? And like I said, you do that little data dump. That's what I compare it to. It's like you're getting rid of all that in there. And that then you let the heart speak.
That's
like that.
phenomenal.
And
I like that.
today,
Absolutely
you
phenomenal.
practice on Sundays, right?
Yeah, I go to the meditation center on Sunday. We do different practices there. I practice daily. I get up at 4:30 and I meditate for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, it's not quantity, it's quality. But I mean, like the mind's the mind. It's some days it will not shut up. Right? A yogi that came to the United States in the 1920s, Vivekananda, said, when describing the mind, he said it's like a drunk monkey being stung by hornets. That's the nature of the human mind, right?
Yeah.
And do you guys ever watch Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my, PBS special, 8 hours. Oh,
I'm too busy watching
has a book.
Outlaws to Advocates.
okay, my bad. But if you guys ever get a chance, Joseph Campbell, like, you guys remember that movie about Benghazi?
Yeah.
Well, he quotes Joseph Campbell, all the gods, all the demons, all the angels, they're within, right? So Joseph Campbell was like on this big search too, right? And he talked to these monks and he thought he was gonna, so what is your mind like? And he thought this monk was gonna be like, it's perfectly clear and I'm great. He goes, and he gave the analogy, sometimes it's just a placid little lake. Sometimes it's a raging river. Sometimes it's crashing waves like the ocean. Like, the mind's the mind.
No.
And the nature of the mind will never change. The nature of the mind is to think. And that's, I enjoy, like, at the end of all my group sessions, I always put in meditation. And what everybody thinks is that because their mind acts like a mind is supposed to act, that somehow they're bad at meditation. And so the analogy I always give my guys in the group is I give the analogy of a dumbbell, right? You get your negative, you're letting the weight go down. Well, negative in meditation is when the mind goes off in the weeds, when it goes down the rabbit hole. The act of pulling it back to your focal point, that's the positive. So it's called a practice for a reason because you're gonna exercise. Your mind is gonna go into crazy places.
Right.
And it's just about bringing it back.
I don't remember who I read a book on meditation, and the guy, he was explaining that theory right there. Like, your mind's going to go think. That's what it's going to do. If it was your liver, you're not trying to shut your liver down because you die. You're not trying to shut your heart down because you die. You don't want it, your mind's an organ as well. You don't want to shut that down either. You're just trying to tame it a little bit and think through it or focus and all that. And it was a really good explanation because I used to struggle with that. I'm like, oh, I'm ADHD and all this other kind of stuff, and I'm all over the place. And I'm like, okay, pull myself back, I'm terrible at meditation. So I started reading about it, And when I heard that analogy, I'm like, okay, my heart beats, my brain thinks, my liver cleanses or whatever the hell livers do. And that it's doing what it's supposed to do. I'm just trying to heal it a little bit. I'm just trying to think on it a little bit. I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit.
And just like action and reaction, right? If you push against something, if you're like, I'm gonna sit and meditate, push it into a corner, your mind isn't gonna push back.
No.
So the whole thing is an act of observation. And then what that practically translates into is a slowing down of things, right? So now when I get PBJ'd and all that good stuff,
No.
it's nice and slow. I'm like, yeah. Instead of boom, 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 boom. It slows down things because you've learned to see thoughts as something that aren't you. They're things that belong to you and are happening. So you're observing them go by as you're doing this process. So as it translates when I'm interacting with other people, I'm actually seeing my thoughts and emotions go by. And so there's more control in that sense, right?
Absolutely.
Because I'm able to see them separate from myself. But if I'm attached to my anger, then like it's funny, like when you examine English and Spanish, right? We say in English, I am angry. But if you said that in Spanish, you're not the essence yet. Yeah, or let's say tengo miedo.
Yeah.
I have fear, but I am not scared, right? Because you're not the essence of fear, right? But in a certain way, English like programs us, like the way that the English is we become that emotion. Like I'm pissed, and like think about it. Even when I say that, you kind of like tense up and you get warm. You're like I'm pissed, but yeah.
So for somebody that's new, that doesn't, it just clearly did not even understand anything that we just covered, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Where would they start?
Oh, as far as meditation goes, I think what I would go with is Vipassana. And the reason that is because there's no mantra attached to it and there's no religion attached to it. There's nothing. All it is your breath. And we all have our breath. And so what you would do with Vipassana is you would focus on the diaphragm, right? And so right now, with your eyes open, breathe normally and mentally focus on your diaphragm. What is it doing? What motion does it make? Some people say up and down. Some people say in, out, right? And so you would focus on that once you start closing your eyes and mentally track it. In, out, in, out, in, out. And then the monkey that it is, it'll jump out there and do other things, and then you'll bring it back to in, out, in, out. And here's the thing. When you first start, don't be discouraged if it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes is good work. 5 minutes is good work.
It's a long time for a beginner.
Trust me. And that's the first thing I like to do. I like to talk about it afterwards. What did that feel like? Didn't 5 minutes just feel like an eternity? All right? And it can. But I would say start. And the process will get you there. I think my wife sometimes compares what she does to what I do, and she gets discouraged. Like she's like, I'm not sitting there for 45 minutes or an hour. But that's not how you start, and that's not how it works. And I mean, that's not the goal in actuality.
Right.
Even a monk will tell you the goal is not to be a world-class meditator. I'm using meditation as a method to get somewhere, to be connected. So a lot of people in the West still hear yoga and they think of hatha. They think the physical stuff, right? But there's so much more to yoga. There's Raja yoga, there's Bhakti yoga, there's chanting, there's all these different aspects. But the reason why I bring it up is yoga comes from the word yukta, to be yoked, to be connected. And
Oh, it's interesting. I never knew that.
So what are we seeking? We're seeking connection. We're seeking to be yoked to the one, right? So it's meditation's a vehicle, right? You're not sitting there to be. I mean, I'm great at sitting here and like clearing my mind. You're like, whoop-a-de-doo. Right? I mean, in all reality, that's a very tall feat, right? But in of itself, that's not the end goal. The end goal is higher connection.
No, it's powerful. And we talk about it on here a lot with connection kind of being the opposite of addiction.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because that's what we connect to is the drugs. Right? I can't connect with anybody else. I can't connect with my family. but this substance right here I can connect to.
Yeah.
Connection's huge.
Yeah. Gabor Mate fan.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, love the dude. You seen any of his stuff? That French Canadian doctor
Yeah.
from Toronto, harm reduction. His theory is it's all suffering, right?
Yeah.
It's our.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No.
It's our attempt at healing our suffering.
Yep.
And but like speaking to that, the opposite of being connection. They talk about the Rat Park experiment and all those, for sure, connection. But kind of going back to, like, you guys were touching on it last episode, like that. I for whatever reason I thought of that podcaster. What is his name? But he has that book called Tribe of Mentors,
Right.
right? And that's why I kind of like think I got a tribe of mentors. I really do. This man's one of them, like
Yep.
huge, by the way.
I think that role's pretty reversed since
We
you've
all
been
learn
out.
from each other,
Yeah.
man. It's pretty.
No, but
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what it's all about. Like, I mean,
I took count last week. I called you more, asking questions.
but for sure, all these connections that I've made, all this, it's a community that we have,
Absolutely.
and I really am starting to look at things, and I've been addressing this with the nonprofit. Like, I don't see it as just recovery or reentry no more. I'm starting to see a community as a whole, because, like, talking to Cordero, and they're working with at-risk youth, right?
Yeah.
We should work with them because we're preemptively trying to stop them from being drug addicts. We're preemptively stopping them from going to prison. We're preventative measures here.
Absolutely.
And then we see that our job is not just reentry and recovery, it's the formation and creation of community.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I've been talking with the director at a nonprofit, and I like the nonprofit a lot better because I could work outside the scope of just what we do.
Right.
By that I mean adult reentry recovery, right? I could go and pivot and do these things that have, like, they're adjacent, and we start seeing that it's connected. And community's like huge. Like, this is not this is a team sport. And like, we can't attack this from our own little silos either. I mean, what I like about knowing people from other organizations is that we could come together, you know what I mean? And, like, we've referred to people to Sanctuary plenty of times. I know all kinds of good guys that came out of New Freedom doing big things.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
called you 2 weeks ago to get that guy into treatment, the guy that was up in Bisbee.
Yeah.
You connected me with your people down there. They got him into treatment. Now he's now in a sober living home. He called me and checked in with me. And that's all because connection, community.
And it was funny because Cordero was talking with the school president, and he goes, sometimes I get discouraged with this nonprofit. And she goes, why? And he goes, I feel like I'm back gangbanging. She goes, explain. He goes, some of these people are like, they're territorial about funds or, like, different resources. And he's like, I thought we're doing good out here. We're battling for
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For space.
I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah.
And people do get like that. And that's one of the things, as soon as I see that,
Yeah.
I kind of just exit from that.
Right.
I'm like, okay, there's nothing here. I'm not responsible for the way that person's acting,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to beat my head against the wall either. So let me just go back to the people that I know that are actually in my community, that are in it for the right reasons, that are about service rather than profit.
I think a good person's capable of that and those actions at times, because I think we're hardwired for tribalism, right? I'm in this team, and I mean, that's the playbook for gangs and groups of people, right?
Or killing the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, hey, for sure.
You got a shout out on here, Angelo. It says, "We are so proud of you, Uncle Angelo. We love you. This is awesome. We need more people like you. Guys. God bless." Linda Lopez Wells.
Yeah, that's my niece.
Yep.
Nice.
That's
I
my
figured it out.
eldest brother's daughter.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
We're glad you're here, Linda. Your
Um,
uncle's killing it.
Let me ask you this, Angelo. Since you've been out, Have you had any struggles or any thoughts at all about using? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
Okay, so I up until a certain amount of time, I was still using meth in prison, and this, oddly enough, after meditation, right? And this is gonna sound hokey in a way, but I laid down that at my teacher's feet, my guru's feet. I laid, like symbolic in my head, laid it down, and I had a bunch of weird dreams where I like encountered a serpent with with rigs for teeth, and oddly enough, this dream happened in the house that I first did meth in. It's just weird things, right? It just, I don't know how that plays in.
I think I looked out the window a couple of times and seen the same thing. So, you know,
But that was being awake for like a few days. Or what?
I don't know, hijacked on, you know.
But what I'm getting at is like using meth has not necessarily been. I haven't been triggered to use meth. Oh, excuse me. I take that back. Okay, so trip out. Found a big bag of speed in this hole by a washing machine.
What,
This was
at work?
at work.
Yeah.
And I bring it down. You should document it and do all
Shoot
that good
program,
shit.
huh?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, but here's the thing. I have this bag and I have to go take a shit.
Yeah.
And I told my coworker, bro, I just had to go take a shit. And I'm just flashing back to like, hey, homie, get the linea real quick.
Yeah.
And I get the line and I'm waiting for the rig and I have to take a dump because I'm ready to go. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think I have it, I have it under control. And I told one of my coworkers, I said, I can't believe it, man. Hey, looking at that made me have to take a shit. He goes, no shit, no.
Yeah.
You're an addict. I was like, oh yeah, that. But so, in some sense, like say going to my brother's house and not drinking, and it's a big social thing, right?
Yeah.
The way I explain it to myself is the reason why I don't have a desire to have a head change is because I found out a way to have a head change. And that head change is like way better.
100%.
And it's through meditation and spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And so but I guess that's a pitfall and a trap. I gotta maintain like I'm not the guy that's like, you know what, I'm gonna go over this house where they've got rails sitting on the freaking coffee table. I'm not gonna like surround myself with this stuff, but at this point in time, I don't feel any urge to use.
That's awesome. I told these guys today I went to Philadelphia to see my family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to Pennsylvania. I flew into Philly. And I hate flying. It terrifies me. It's not a great feeling. I look out that window, I'm scared to death. And I'm walking back to the plane to fly out. Like flying in wasn't that big of a deal, but I'm noticing all the beers in the bars. So my mind starts thinking that stuff. I'm like, I could have a beer in Philly. I have a 5-hour flight. No one's going to smell it on my breath. These guys will never find out. It's just to take the edge off. I don't really want a beer. I just don't want to be terrified on the plane. Like, and I went through this whole thought process. And I don't really, like you, I don't really get triggered. But that was like probably the closest I've come into having a beer since I've been out, where I was like really close. But I look back at it, I didn't have any of my support system around. I was out there on my own. My kid had dropped me off. These guys are out here. I can get away with it. My mind went right back to that sneaky, lying, I'm going to hide it, addict mentality. And it was weird to see that ugly side in that moment.
Came back to say hello.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, there you are. Where you been at?
Yeah.
But thankfully, I just kept walking, throwing some tunes or podcasts or whatever, and kept pushing.
So you mentioned harm. Oh, go ahead.
No, so it travels back to tribe.
Nope.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And so you guys mentioned harm reduction. And have you met people in the community that
Yeah, I volunteered for Shot in the Dark for a few months after,
I volunteered.
Lita Rial came in and shared her experience, strength, and hope, and said she worked for Shot in the Dark, and I was really empowered. She came into the Second Chance Center, so I followed her too, and she graduated from that Thunderbird School of International and Business Management. I believe that was the school she graduated from, but she's got a master's and MBA and works. And her story of redemption is one of the most powerful I've ever heard. But yeah, it was a good influence.
I volunteered like a handful of times with Tripti. I think her last name's Chowdhury. Maybe I shouldn't be anonymous on. She's got a master's degree, works in recovery, but like she always wants to keep that one foot in the trenches, and that's just. And we went to Mobilize Recovery.
Yeah.
We went. And so in one of these panels, they were talking about that. They like, let's unite the rooms in harm reduction because of the philosophy schism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's the hardliners that are like, you guys are just basically
Giving them
helping
bites.
these freaking
People get high.
yeah, you're helping these people get high. How are you?
Well, we were having this conversation today at Cimarron. Some of the guys were talking about Suboxone, Mat Services. And the thing is now is that the stuff that we've got now on the streets, it's not about whether somebody's using or not. It's whether or not somebody's going to die or not.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's about keeping people alive first. You know, everything else comes second because the only people that can't recover are people that are dead.
Yeah.
So it's keeping people alive. So harm reduction, Mat Services, the different stuff that you were talking about, all that stuff is very, very important.
And he's a hardcore 12-stepper.
No. Hey,
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't think until I took some of my ASD courses did I shake that thought of it's
Yeah.
just a crutch type thing. They're just trading one drug for another type. But when you look at the efficacy rates, right?
No.
It's effective.
There's
So
no-
then
there's no
therefore-
argument.
When I started volunteer for Shot in the Dark, the people that were volunteering were 2 med students that already had published works that were like I'm like, they had 4.2 grade point average pre-med at ASU. Now they're going to med school in Nebraska. I'm like,
And then I went to the Roosevelt site with Shot in the Dark, and 2 of the individuals were going to med school.
yeah.
Like, these are people that they believe, and they're academics. They believe because the data says this works, so that we're going to involve ourselves with it. And yeah, for sure, it's not always embraced.
It's not
And
always
it's-
embraced.
And I think it comes back to the compassion part.
Yes.
Like the people with Shot in the Dark is like, you know what? You want to get high? I'm gonna sit here with you. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm gonna have this Narcan, and if you fall out of me, I'm gonna be
I'm
here
not
to
going
help
to push
you.
any services on you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be right here with you.
But services are available.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things was the card, the don't use alone cards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to use, call this number, use with us, so that way you have somebody with you that knows what's going on. It was pretty cool.
And
Yeah.
speaking about when we were talking about Gabor Mate,
Yeah.
they were talking about the one in Toronto that kept getting shut down, but they
Yeah.
kept going. But
And the stats that went with that
Yeah.
are insane.
Portugal,
Yep.
Yeah. Portugal. Yeah. It went
50% decline.
Yeah. It went out like drugs went out like a fad. Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
But
And they use community and compassion to surround them to help them find purpose. It's just it's a whole different.
And it's very integrated.
Yeah.
It's not just you go to the clinic, you shoot up in front of a doctor. You're offered different services. You're given jobs. The government over there is paying stipends to employers saying, look, keep this dude employed and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Because they understood the whole dynamic.
Of community.
Yeah. And Nick, you met Nick Curry, right? When he was going to our board and trying to explain why he wants to push workforce and why workforce is so important, he basically had to break down Maslow's hierarchy of needs and be like, look, our dudes are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on step 1, food, shelter, clothes.
Yeah.
We know that their heart and their mind needs help, but they're not there until they've satiated all these your base needs.
Yeah,
You
we
can't
need
go
those
from
first.
here to here.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
hit every level.
And so you were talking to Eden, and we were talking about the
I love Eden. He's such a good
He's
dude.
such a great human.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about the kinship stipend with our one of my heroes, freaking Father Greg Boyle with Homeboys Industries.
Homeboy Industries.
Kinship stipends. They give these guys money to go into the program and chill, so that those intrusive thoughts of, hey, I know how to get some Nikes, I know how to get the shirts and the khakis and everything I need right now. It's back with the homies over there.
No.
Instead of doing this program, and we just had a meeting with one of your future guests, and homeboys, and just today, their program's 18 months, bro.
Yeah.
Their re-entry program is 18 months.
And that's barely
we're-
enough
yeah.
time.
And we're sitting here with 90 days, bro.
Yeah.
A freaking Band-Aid. I'm sorry, but it's a joke.
Yeah.
That's a fucking,
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah.
It's a
okay.
joke.
You're good.
Yeah, no, you're
It's
good.
a joke.
That's one of the main reasons we wanted to get back into the prisons, because we can start working on this stuff while they're incarcerated, while they have 5, 10, 15 years left, rather than immediately upon release. You know, a lot of us built our foundation when we were in, and that's why we were able to get where we are as fast. Because there's a lot of people that are incarcerated that if they take the time to do this work while they're in, they're going to be a lot farther ahead than coming out with a habit.
Even a guy today was telling us, he's like, yeah, I want to try to get into peer support. And we're like, bro, it's us three and Boo, right? Like, between the four of us, we know everybody that's doing something out here. If I don't know them, they do.
Yeah.
If they don't know them, I do. You know,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I think it'll be better when I get out. So we kind of let that lie, and then talk to him. I said, bro, it starts now. It starts today. Like, what can you start doing to be better today? And I talked to him afterwards a little bit, and unfortunately, here, like InReach, can't bill for it, right? So it's hard to be sustainable to just survive if you're doing InReach. It's got to be volunteer stuff. It's got to be.
I mean, I hate to talk out of school, but when we're making the curriculum,
Yeah.
there was a question like, why are you doing all this? You know, this is your free service. And Nick's like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is not a BD attempt.
Right,
He's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
sending people in to run groups.
Yeah.
This is a hope attempt.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring some hope
And so
somewhere.
I,
Trying to save lives.
And that's what
and
this
so I'm
whole
like- that's what I'm like,
targeted
where I
investment
need to
program that Sanctuary is involved in right now is a majority of it is InReach. It's identifying, 3 months, 6 months pre-release, all the way to however long you can track them as they're going out and providing just case management. Like when Sanctuary offers case management and peer support, we're giving it to them InReach and all the way outreach. It's just there. Whether you're going home or whether you're going, just you have it. It's there. It's there to hold your hand.
I guarantee, because I haven't been in prison. I'm trying to go to the Douglas Fair thing.
Nice.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I guarantee conversations you've had made people say, man, I should actually be thinking about this. Like things they weren't even thinking about. Like
Yeah.
maybe I should go back to the rack right now. And,
They told us
like,
that.
Yeah.
They told us that
Really?
because it was our second class.
Yeah.
They came back and like, man, this stuff made me think. The one guy's like, I set the book on the table and I just walked by it, and it took me like 2 weeks to get this done. Just the little questions, the things that we're putting out there, the real conversations. Because you walk out that door back onto the yard, we know what it is. We're gonna tell some lie about women or money or brims or
Yeah.
bullshit or why I didn't get stored today.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about the chow line freaking
Yeah, that shit.
chat hour.
Yeah, and,
a long fucking
we
line.
hit these guys, and some of them are going home soon. Some of them aren't going home for a while, and then some of them aren't coming home at all. So their needs were completely different.
Yeah.
They were more about like, this is where I'm going to be. How can you help me have a voice out there and leave a legacy?
And you're touching on what he's spoken to me about. I don't know if you've spoken this out there before, but he's like, his thing is let's target these lifers. Let's empower these lifers. Let's get them master's degrees, because these dudes are going to actually put in more work than anyone.
Dude, in Nebraska,
Yeah.
I took they have this peer support, what's it called? It's intentional peer support. It's like peer support on steroids, right? So I took it virtual with these two girls who have done time in Nebraska. And it's a long class. They get a lot of information to cover. So I asked them, I said, hey, when this is done, can we have a conversation? Because I want to hear about the Nebraska prisons. They do a lot of work in there. And she's like, yeah, no problem. So after like this 8-week course, we got to talk. And the lifers in Nebraska, they're housing them on the juvenile yards. And they're acting as mentors to the kids that are coming in. And you talk about giving somebody purpose that whatever,
Yeah.
through their actions, whatever, society threw away, whichever way you want to look at it. These guys aren't coming home. And most people are going to consider them hopeless, pointless, don't have this, don't have that. But now they have a purpose because now that kid can't say, you don't understand what I'm going through. Dude, I've been here for 30 years.
Yeah, the
He's
fuck
like,
I don't.
homeboy, you're looking at
better
that
than you
fuck
do right
you
now.
right now.
You don't know what the fuck I'm going through.
We got a few minutes left here. As we close, what's a message you want to leave everybody with? Oh, by the way, another coworker of yours is on, or actually employee, Nate Shepard, who's a
Hey, what's up, Nate?
great
Hi,
guy.
yeah.
I knew him.
I met him when he was onboarding at corporate. And I come up and talk to people, bro.
Yeah.
He's like,
Hey,
hey, what's
outreach.
up, man? What's your story, bro? and hey, he's great.
Nate's a great guy.
Yeah,
He's a friend
I've
of mine
talked
as
to
well.
him on the phone outside of work, and like his heart's in the right place. He's in it for the right reason,
Oh, yeah.
man. We're gonna talk about FAFSA soon, Nate. It's time to go to school, bro.
Time to go to school. Time to get that head right.
I've been trying to plant that seed for a little bit now, but yeah,
So what do you got for final thoughts here, man?
community tribe, right?
Yeah.
And
That's it.
I mean, magic, right?
Absolutely. It feels so good to have community, to have that tribe, to have the people you can reach out to. Hey, I got something going on. Can you help me with this? Or, hey, I just want to hang out. I got somebody to call. That's pretty cool too. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. Well, like I said, when you walked in the door, I was super stoked to see you. I'm super glad we got to have this kind of somewhat social hour, to hang out and just chop it
Yeah,
up,
I
get
mean,
to know
this
each
is
other.
the closest a lot of us get
Yeah.
to social hour because
It's,
we're
it's a real
grinding.
privilege, man, because since I've known you, I've realized how many layers you have to who you are. And I'm really, really proud to call you a good friend.
Likewise.
So
You gonna be
thank
at the
you
pro
so much.
orientation tomorrow?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at. I think they haven't. We went all the way to Mesa today, and they don't start that up the Wednesday for Mesa. It's
every other-
I know, but they're changing it to Wednesday because I guess all the people aren't showing up. They're going to 801 instead.
Oh yeah.
Because tomorrow Mesa's gonna have their orientation while 801's having their orientation. So me and Eden will split. He'll go to Mesa.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're gonna start doing it on Wednesdays so that they could spread the love, I guess.
Oh, that makes sense. That's why I don't go to Mesa, because it's the same time.
I'll see you there.
Awesome, man.
It's great.
I look forward to it. Well, thank you for being out here, man. Thank you
Hey,
for
thanks
coming
for
and hanging
having me.
out, making the drive all the way out from Southside Chandler.
More like
way Southside.
so side the hair is blue out there.
But yeah, man, we're super happy to have you. Thank you for being here. Everybody take care. If anybody's struggling, needs to reach out, my phone number is 480-527-6326. These guys' phone numbers are
480-628-0867.
480-735-9570.
602-677-3790.
all kinds of numbers out there for
Well,
you guys.
wait, before we close out, this is our 21st episode, right?
Oh yeah.
So we've crossed the 20. We've made it past
I'm
the
glad
20.
you brought that up. Yeah.
So what's the significance behind that, George?
Jesse knows it. Let's hear it, Jesse.
This is what Jesse knows. There's close to 80 years of incarceration at this table. We're living, we're staying free, we're helping people. We found a good life, and anybody listening to this podcast can find the same thing.
Awesome. Now tell us what the significance of the 21st episode is.
Statistically, 99% of podcasts do not make it to episode 21. So, in theory, if you make it to episode 21, statistically, you're in the top 1% of podcasts.
Why was it hard for you to say we're in the top 1% of podcasts?
Whoa.
We're in the top 1% of podcasts. And the top 15% of video podcasts
Whatever
on
helps,
Spotify.
And
whatever helps you sleep
0.4%
better at
in
night.
Russia.
Whatever helps you sleep better at night.
And 0.04% in Russia.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Love you, Linda.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out, Linda. You guys have a good one.